Attention all passengers. Wilford Industries wishes you a good morning. The temperature outside is minus 119 degrees Celsius. As we enter the Yukon territory of the former Canada, we remind you, for your personal safety, be prepared to brace. We are 6 years, 9 months, and 26 days from departure. At the tone, the exact time will be 0800 hours. And now, for your listening and viewing pleasure, Wilford Industries is proud to present the latest offering from darkloopsproductions, the Snowpiercers.
The Snowpiercers, a podcast in which we, the head of hospitality, the social engineer, director of intercar relations, and the lead brakeman, discuss TNT's fantastic new series, Snowpiercer. I'm your host, Dr. Scott Jordan, aka Zombie Scotty, cognitive psychologist, philosopher from Illinois State University. And tonight we discuss season 2, episode 5, Keep Hope Alive. Fellow crew members, please say hi to the audience and tell them a little something about who you are, and we will start with Leandra.
I am Leandra Parris. I am an assistant professor of school psychology at William and Mary, and I do trauma and social justice stuff.
And I hear you have a tiara you could show us this evening.
Oh, I do. I was channeling my inner Ursula.
Fantastic.
So I can't put it on because my background blocks it, but yeah.
Why does that have such a Game of Thrones vibe for me?
It also has like the huntsman, Trace Theron, when she's dressed up, has it, but it was the only one I could find that I felt like it wasn't exactly Ursula's, but like was semblant of it for a costume that I was wearing. So anyway, I've been wearing that all week for our virtual conference because sometimes you just need to feel like a badass.
There you go. How about you, Stanford? Messing with the producer.
What?
Technical difficulties.
All right. Hi, I'm Dr. Stanford Carpenter. I'm a cultural anthropologist coming to you out of Chicago.
Fantastic. And Cianna.
Hi, I'm Cianna Greaves. I am your head of hospitality. I'm also a radio producer and podcast producer. You're coming out of Chicago, Illinois.
Fantastic. All right, then. We know how we do this. Favorite character, favorite scene, favorite line. Who wants to go first? All right, I'm just going to start with my favorite line just to get the conversation started. It's very simple. It's a little longer than Jesus wept. So then we lie. That's what Ruth says when they're all sitting around deciding what to do because Melody's not pinged them back. And I love how they all know what they have to do, right? They have to lie. And it's Ruth who was so bothered by the fact that Melanie had been lying for 7 years, who decides, oh, all right, I'm going to take this up. This is my job now. And so then we lie. And I just really found that, I found that a good, fun moment. And I think we're going to see Ruth get a little more dangerous.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I think it goes back to what we were saying, was it last week when we were like, they would have in reality had set that up so that no matter what, there was a ding, right? And I think one of the things I like about the show, and Stanford, I feel like you brought this up when we first started doing this, that there are little holes that you'll notice, and then like an episode or two later, they fix it.
Right.
This was kind of like them fixing that, where like, yeah, we lie. And I feel like that look on Ruth's face as she says it, it was very, like she's starting to, it doesn't excuse what Melanie did. I mean, Melanie obviously did like a lot of horrible stuff, but I think the lying piece, like they're starting to maybe understand her perspective a little bit.
Right. Well, that at a certain point, nothing matters on that train if you don't have some sort of order. And I think that's one thing that the one thing that was interesting about this episode was they gave us a little more of the contrast between Snowpiercer and Big Alice. And in doing that, they're actually getting me to see, like, the best villains are villains that you can relate to, right? And I think that one of the problems with some of the stuff they've done with Mr. Wilford so far is they've made him completely unrelatable. He's like too evil, right? Like unredeemably so. But like this episode where it's like the book club, I thought that was amazing.
Yeah, he's a proper British sociopath.
Well, no, but I see something like that as something that's about creating an order, creating a routine, right?
Yep.
And what's interesting is seeing something like a book club, because you've also got what's happening on Snowpiercer, where you think that something like a book club is what they would have on Snowpiercer, not on Big Alice. And so what I'm seeing is their paint is that they're letting us see Big Alice in such a way that shows that both trains are incomplete. Big Alice is actually much flatter in terms of its organizational structure and in terms of its class structure, right? Big Alice is actually closer to Leighton's Revolution as far as the structure of the train than Snowpiercer is.
Yeah, I think go ahead, Leandra.
I was just gonna say, I like the point about the book club, although I would add, people look scared at the book club. Was that just me? Or like, were there people who were like kind of
at the book club?
Do we really got to sit through this crap again? I mean, now that you mention it, there's a cleverness to basically you're forcing people to be at a book club. And who was he forcing? It looked like what you would call the elite of Big Alice, right? Because he asks Sykes to leave the room. And he says, okay, these are the people who I have to get on the same page about what's good. And so instead of preaching to them about what's good,
your fighter, your cook, your seamstress, your
doctors,
doctors, yeah. And so we're going to read this book together, probably every year for 7 years or whatever. And the way I respond negatively or positively to their critiques will let them know what I think is right and wrong. And I don't have to actually say it to them. Because they were not interested in being there.
I mean, it was also Rebecca, like.
And that.
I thought that scene, I thought this episode was an interesting mix of a little bit of horror and a little bit of comedy. So when they have Josie in that vat of ooze, and she watches what they do to Big Bob. I thought, wow, this is like a horror story, right? I mean, she's all scarred up. And the next thing you know, we're watching a book club. So I felt this one was, other than what they were doing with the boxing and all that, I thought this one was kind of a horror comedy mashup. At least that's the vibe I got.
Yeah, I thought that, to me, the one thing about this episode is that I felt that very little happened. I felt like we were just kind of passing the time, in comparison to some of the other episodes, right? I felt like this episode had some good bits, but it's like it was just very like this all the way across. Whereas the other one.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, Cianna, you're gonna say something?
It also felt incredibly dense, which is, I think, something that Snowpiercer really does have a knack for creating these very dense episodes where very little happens.
I agree.
The visuals, there were some really, really great visuals as always. I think that the makeup on Josie is outstanding.
Yeah, it is.
That woman, I mean, she looks like she is suffering. She looks like, I mean, those burns look so real, and it makes me uncomfortable every time she's on screen.
Yeah.
So, shout out to the makeup department, because, I mean, Josie's makeup is fantastic. But again, Josie's storyline didn't really go anywhere. Okay, she's spying. and she's, you know, forming some kind of relationship with Big Bob. She goes through surgery, but nothing else really happens to move her story forward. The boxing with Logan and Beth, Logan is proving to be a very, very interesting character, but I think the execution of that scene, Logan's coming out and sort of the unmasking of who he is and what his intentions are, it was just almost like 20 minutes of just like exposition. It was probably like 10 minutes of exposition, but it felt like forever. And this very cliche boxing match, and it's, you know, black and white and good and evil and male and female. It was just like super heavy on the symbolism.
A little heavy. Yeah.
But it wasn't stirring in any way. I didn't think that his dialogue was effective in that way at all. I was just sort of left like, okay, well, I guess we'll see what happens next week.
I think you're right.
It's supposed to be this great revelation, but just fell a little flat for me.
So I agree with your comment about it being dense but not going anywhere, right? You know, I mean, I think they did good work with Ruth on this one. At the beginning, one of the first things we see her doing is walking through the train, and I just suddenly felt calm seeing Ruth walk through the train, right? And I said, okay, this works. This really works. And then to see her start to crack a little bit, Leighton's pushing her way too far out of the loop. And I'm wondering if we're going to see a Leighton Ruth confrontation, because there's already talk on the train of whether or not Leighton's the person to do it. So I thought the dense work they did on her worked, but I got to tell you, how do I say this? What are they doing to Leighton? I mean,
okay, I've been waiting for someone to ask that, because I was like, can we talk about, all right, one of the worst parts of there's a lot of things that happened in Walking Dead that I wasn't happy about, but one of the things I remember early on being really upset about was when Lori kind of like pushes Rick to kill Shane.
oh God,
and I had that exact same feeling here with Zara and Leighton, and I was just like, I don't like that setup where it's like this kind of conniving
woman who's
manipulative, pushing you into violence, and then like the Leighton that we met in the first season, I just don't see him handling this way, and I don't see him pushing a friend towards that darkness. Like he says, like, I promised I would never kill anyone again unless it was, you know, war or whatever. Like he's pushing his friend to do something that his friend genuinely, like, it's going to wreck him.
Yep.
You mean almost like sending a woman back to her abuser just to get a tip?
Yes. And he like kind of acknowledges it. He was like, oh yeah, like you're doing a lot for us here. And I wanted to be like, I don't think you understand what you've actually asked her to do. Or if you do, you're a thing I can't say on this podcast. So does anyone else feel that way, that like this is really inconsistent with like Detective Leighton
totally
we saw last season? Or did I just
mean, he's definitely like a character that, like, if they killed him tomorrow, I wouldn't cry. Like I've actually stopped caring about him.
Well, he stopped caring about himself, right? I mean, from last year, there's no force in him. You know, the force is in all the women, and for him to sit and have Zara say, hey, you should have this guy killed. And he says to himself, oh, that's a good idea. No.
I mean,
and since when does killing become so casual?
Well, that's kind of it, right?
what happened to the drawers? Like, did they stop it? Like, why didn't he just put the dude in a drawer?
I think they're trying. So my experience of what's going on is he's becoming a foil for the women. In other words, he can't rule. So maybe it's Ruth, you know. Zara thinks it might be Zara. That's why she's wearing teal. Go ahead.
Take all the seats, Zara. And this whole like Lady Macbeth trope really doesn't work with Zara because she's probably one of the weakest characters on the show.
Yeah, she's a floater. Yeah.
Just like, ma'am, like, are you speaking? It just doesn't work for me at all. I don't find her intimidating. I don't find her interesting. And
Nope.
it's not the actress's fault. It's just the writers have sort of, she's been an afterthought for most of the show. And now she's wielding this power that I don't understand what the source of that power is. Is it really just putting on a teal suit?
I mean,
The
Is
super
that
suit.
what it is? Or is it, being the mother, being pregnant on Snowpiercer? Is it being the partner of the leader of the train? I mean, I don't understand. And they haven't really even, what is the status of Zara and Leighton's relationship?
they seem kind of chummy.
Are they back together? Is that what's happening? Are they?
Well, they're implying that they're getting into being parents together, and that's where I see all the intimacy. And I have to admit, I cringe when I see those scenes, right? Because I know the other woman he was with just before he found out she was pregnant, and I feel like I'm watching a bad soap opera. The power of Josie, the power, like Stanford said last time, she's the memory. Well, now they're bringing that memory full force to life, and it's really going to start to move things in the plot. His intensity doesn't match that. And even if he's struggling to make decisions, even, the charisma that they wrote him with last year just isn't showing up. And maybe they're trying to think, well, that's because he's not a good leader and blah, 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 blah. But I'm not buying it, I guess, is what I'm saying. And it's, so we'll see why they're doing that to the character, right? What are they setting up?
Yeah.
Hey, Stanford, how do you feel about Zara taking Tristan's job?
Why'd you have to do that to him?
Tristan's good with that. He was like, bye.
I mean,
Thank you.
he was like, no, I thought like we were gonna and then he's just like, I'm out. And I was like, Stanford.
I thought that we were going to have an opportunity to talk about like our favorite line, our favorite character. And I'm just waiting patiently here while somebody decides to try and steal my joy.
Oh, I'm
Right.
sorry.
So go ahead and talk about your man, Tristan.
Yeah.
No. No. It's my man, Tristan.
There you go.
So I'll say my favorite, my quote was, thank God. That's my quote, my favorite line from my favorite character being my man Tristan.
She was like, you're fired. He was like, okay, see ya.
Thank God.
Yeah.
And then he knows.
Yeah.
See, you have to understand the brilliance of Tristan. You see, while everybody's running around doing their Game of Thrones stuff, you got Tristan back there pulling the levers to make sure everything goes the way it should go, right? Yeah. When there's a vacancy, when there's nobody to speak for the car, he steps in. But you know what? He's not there to hog the limelight. No, because my man Tristan, he's humble.
He would probably give
people
humble. Swag too. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. He believes in sharing the swag, and he believes in sharing the mic. Yep. So they come in, they say, "Hey, we got to give her the mic. Her weak, stanky behind." And you know what? He's like, "Thank God."
Thank God.
And he wasn't saying "thank God" just to say "thank God." He was thanking God that she had an opportunity, so that he could go and make the train run on time and do everything it needs to do behind the scenes, because my man Tristan, he's a man.
So what you're telling me?
Sorry, y'all. I don't know when I started, but
what was I supposed to feel? I'm not sure what I was supposed to be feeling with the whole Zara puking and then having a perfect train announcement.
I think they're supposed.
What all women can do? I don't know.
I think they're trying to get us to start to think Game of Thrones about her, right? That she's I could do Ruth's job. Ooh, and I'm with Leighton. You know what? I could be queen of this place.
To what end? I don't know.
I mean, I'm not saying I believe her, but I
just don't know what. Okay, let's say she did have Ruth's job. Okay, then what? Like what, Zara? Who are you even? Like, I don't like what's.
No, I don't know that thinking ahead is one of her superpowers. You know, I mean, she's a floater, right? And she left Leighton back in the Traileys with the Traileys and went back with him as soon as he was around. And now she wants Ruth's gig and isn't at all troubled by forethought, you know, foresight, just floating through.
Yeah. I think that's also part of what made this a difficult episode.
Yeah.
Is that also, you know, except for that brief moment with my man Tristan, that was all weak characters. You know what I mean? It wasn't. It was densely written and well written, but it wasn't the type of writing that really brings out the interesting parts of characters.
I think the placement was a real issue here. I could have done with an hour of Melanie. I feel that if we had some time with Melanie and figured out where she was and what her story was and how her journey had progressed, the stakes would have seemed a lot higher in this episode.
You're on target. When I was watching, go ahead.
Sorry,
no,
okay,
please go ahead. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
The stakes just didn't feel that high, and it's not that it wasn't a good episode. I think it was a good episode, but certain parts just felt that if we had, you know, maybe sandwich last week with this week, and we had a Melanie episode in the center, I think the drama would have definitely been ramped up.
See,
go ahead, man.
Along those lines, I mean, the other thing they could have done was they could have just had little snippets of Melanie just trying to make it through the snow, and then have them, and then keep coming back to snippets of them in the car trying to figure out what to do because they haven't heard from her. And then have Melanie just like something happened to Melanie where you're like, she's a goner, and then fade to black on Melanie. And then they're like, what do? We lie. And then they do the ding. I
would have needed a full hour of Melanie because it felt like a lot of the stories are, I don't know.
But we're getting a full hour next week.
I meant between last week and this week.
No, I agree. And I think, because I was watching this and when I saw the opening scene with Josie, I said, they should have had this in an earlier episode. You know, this level of trauma on her part brings depth to the episode that's been lacking as we've seen people fight at the top. And I thought, why am I just getting this now? So you're totally on target. And that's an editing thing, right? I mean,
sure.
And I'm a little surprised that, I mean, these are professional editors that, no, we need more depth in episode 2. Let's throw that scene in there. I was a little surprised by that.
And the storyboarding, I mean,
yeah,
we've gone 2 hours now without Melanie. That's a long time for your protagonist to be off screen.
You know,
so much is hinging on whether or not they're even alive.
Yeah.
I think what they tried to do with Melanie is try to show us that Melanie's on the train just like Wilford was on the train last season, right? In other words, the person who's not there but there. And they're trying to get us to feel that, well, Melanie's presence, even though she's physically not there. And I get the maneuver, but I also agree that the stakes didn't feel high enough.
Right. I think I agree with you 100%. And I think if we had that hour with Melanie, it would have been way more effective.
And I thought that's what we were getting.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why I'm a little like, it's a fine episode, but I honestly thought that's what this episode was supposed to be.
And would they, in the way that they tell non-sync or asynchronous storylines anymore, where you got this storyline and it's you know, the scenes are going back, but this one took place a week ago, and then you figured out later that they were out of sync. I mean, just showing her walking through the snow would have instantly increased the stakes, regardless of if it had been her first day out, right? It just would, like you said, it mattered to see her. I was shocked. Why didn't I see Josie this way earlier? It just mattered when I saw her like that.
Well, And I think the other thing that gets you, and I think that this is something that they're kind of getting away from, or they're not doing enough of, is the more we get glimpses of what's going on outside, the more we see the extent to which Earth is an alien planet that is completely inhospitable to human life. The more interesting what's going on in the train is. Like, I keep thinking in the first episode, like look at how Josie ended up the way she ended up, right? It wasn't because they threw her out. It was really because they just opened a door and left her in the room, right? I mean, that it's that bad out there. And I think that's actually the value of having Melanie out there. Like, the fact that she's out there, she's not wearing like heavy down parka. She's wearing a freaking spacesuit.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah. Maybe I think you're absolutely right. We're all a little too comfortable and cozy on Snowpiercer. Right?
Yeah.
I agree with you 100%.
So what you guys think?
I mean, and I'm also thinking last episode, there are lots of things where something would happen, and like a couple of something happened to be a hole in the wall, and all of a sudden you just see this, the air going through in such a way where it just cuts things, right? Like, it's just, there's not a sense of environmental hazard anymore. It's all about, like, we just got to make sure that guy doesn't stab me or blow foam in my lungs.
Yeah, we got from like The Walking Dead to Murder on the Orient Express. And I'm kind of like,
So when I was watching Leighton do what he did, it reminded me so much of the things I didn't like about Negan in The Walking Dead, right? Negan is a great character in the comic book, and I love the actor who played the role, but I just thought that the screen depiction of Negan was ridiculous. Because, I mean, in the comic, Negan talks a lot, but not nearly as much as he did in the TV show. He was bashing your head in by the time the fifth word came out, and I just felt, why are they Walking Deading this show? Why are they Neganing this character? They must have a purpose. There must be something they're trying to do with him, and I don't know what it is. But what do you think of Wilford and Audrey's interactions?
Oh, Audrey.
Why is she okay?
Girl, no.
Like,
we were rooting for you.
I didn't mean to put Stanford in such a disparate state. I'm sorry, man.
I feel betrayed. I mean, I feel sorry for her, but I was like, oh, okay, it's like that.
So let me ask you this. Do you feel like, because like the whole thing with the box, and then Wilford playing with the box when she, the speaker box, and then Wilford plays with it after she leaves it. And then she's got to decide, is she going to stay or leave? And we see her turn her back. When I see that, I feel like I'm being written at, right? I don't feel like I'm just witnessing people living a life. I feel like the writers are saying, oh, we know you like this, and we're going to do this to you, and we're going to do this to you. And the first season just didn't feel like that.
Right.
And that's when Walking Dead went bad, when I just felt like they were writing at me instead of just writing and letting people be who they were.
Yep. I don't like the Audrey we met. Again, it's just like not sticking true to like the character development they had from the first season, which part of me is like, you know what, like trauma and domestic violence, I completely see it.
Yeah.
I truly get it. Her staying when that door is open
makes sense. Yeah.
I don't have that worldview to understand that. Like, do I feel like what the hell, girl? Yes. But I've also never been treated that way by someone that I do think she genuinely loved at some, you know what I mean? And I think that I keep trying to give her the benefit of really coming at that with that understanding of domestic violence and abuse and sexual abuse and like physical abuse that she very clearly had experienced from him. At the same time, she's also like super weak now like the Audrey we first met would have been like, no, I got what I need. Like the night car would have been so important to her that it wouldn't have mattered.
Yeah.
So I just hate to see a character that was so, especially a female character that was so strong and so empowered. Even when she was singing on the stage for Wilford, like really like all eyes on her, like she held everything, kind of reduced to this uncertain, I don't know what I'm doing. Right. And that is what happens. I guess I just didn't want to see it play out on screen that way.
And it's been 7 years since they were last together.
Right.
And he seemed to destroy all of that progress that she had made in, you know, a matter of 7 days.
Well, they're also writing her to be a spy, right? So when she turns around, you're supposed to think, oh, we don't know why she's turning around, because she's in love or because she's a spy and she wants to stay and see what he does. And I get that, but it's too cognitive. I didn't feel
it's not working for me at all. It just
I didn't
isn't.
feel that tension at all.
You know, I feel like part of the problem is that they're not writing the character in a way that's comprehensive to me. So it feels like it actually feel like I'm looking at what the writer wants, not what the character's doing.
Yes.
And it's back to what you say about being written at, you know, because she's just had so little ambivalence about like becoming re-involved with Wilford. I mean, even after she's gone through all this to create her own independent life and independent power base, and it's like, oh, whatever. You know, I mean, I mean, who's running the night car while she's off with Wilford?
And Leandra, from your experience, the way before she goes over to Big Alice that night, she's having a conversation with Leighton and everybody else, and they're talking about, should you go? And Leighton's saying stuff like, you know, we don't want you to get hurt. Would someone that's had the experience she has had even really be in a conversation like that? In other words, I just got the impression that if she's as deeply psychologically just traumatized, there would be no there wouldn't be this conversation consciously with all these people. She would just buck up and say, I'm going to go or not go. I just got the impression that it was all a little too cognitive for me. I don't know. Like I said,
but how do you put that out for people to see that process too? And I felt like they kind of did that so that you could see that Leighton wasn't a complete idiot and like he was recognizing.
But even his moment didn't feel full of compassion. It just it felt like words he was saying. It you know, if you have to imagine if someone's asking someone to put their life at risk like that, you're practically in, I don't know. It just seemed that there should have been a tighter emotional bond between, well, I guess he asked two people one to go kill someone and one to go put their life at risk. And
well,
no, go ahead.
Flip side of that, I mean, maybe she's very clever. I mean, it's very obvious that Leighton is planning something for Snowpiercer. I can't really recollect. Did he say to her that, you know, something was going down tonight? Does she know that?
Audrey?
Yeah.
I don't know that.
No, she doesn't know anything until the alarms are going off. I mean, you know what I mean?
Right.
And I don't think he knew before she left. Because he found out about it after the trade, right? In other words, there was a trade and the tube came through with the note in it. And that's the one that said, Wilford's doing something tonight.
Did Wilford let Audrey know? Because that's what I'm trying to,
okay.
I remember him persuading her to stay.
I think he was curling his mustache.
Who he is. She also knows that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
With Wilford being back, I mean, things don't look good for Snowpiercer. And maybe she thinks there's no way that they're going for.
No, I agree. I just
better the devil you know.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that's leads me to the other thing. we don't want to go here yet. We want to keep, that's fine. But like the thing with the brakeman, I don't, what happened? So like they're trying to frame Leighton's people, or
well, the group that we thought were loyal to Wilford, we thought it was the brakeman. It is not the brakeman. We don't know who the hooded figures are.
Were they tailies? Because I mean,
we don't know. Even if they were amongst the tailies, they could have just been plants. All we know is that there's some sort of like armed insurrection brewing.
Right. And I guess that was my thing, where like what it was, because clearly Wilford had something to do with it, because he's the one, like you hear the doctors talking about these, they're going to go ahead and like use the brakeman early, and like why, so like why would he have the people who were super loyal to him killed, if not to make it look like he was being targeted, you know what I mean? Like, so like the whole thing, I was just very much like, oh shit, is he smart enough to pull that off? Like, I don't, what's happening?
Right.
Well, we shall see. I mean, the thing is, this kind of stuff was going on all the time in the first 5-6 seasons of Game of Thrones, and I felt the tension all the time. I don't feel that same tension watching this, right? And I'm not sure why. There's conniving going on, that's for sure. But I just don't sense.
I mean, I think he is smart enough to pull that off. He's been plotting to get his train back for 7 years.
That is true.
He wants his train back. I mean, he definitely has a plan, and I think it's going to be executed pretty flawlessly. And I think part of Audrey realizes that, like, okay, if I go back over there and I, walk away from this man and betray him again, like I'm dead.
Yeah, and he does say to her early when she gets there, just watch the evening unfold. Yeah. She asks him what's going on. He just let it unfold, and he starts to twist his mustache, and all the things happen. I mean, the book club was about the best thing that happened to his character this season, I think. It's just one of those oddities that that was clever for the writers, but most of it's just been dastardly stuff.
I mean, her face when the door is closing, when Ruth was asking her to come over, it wasn't, I'm scared or I'm trapped. It was like I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And I do like how when one of the Snowpiercer family was at risk with him, she turned down an invitation to Wilford. In other words, if no one had been around, if there hadn't been any risk to anyone, and he invited her over, I think she would have gone. But in that moment, it just solidified her role as Melanie. Nope, I'm not going. And she just tells him. And that's why I thought this was a good Ruth episode. I believed all the stuff they did for her. And I want to know who she's going to eventually kill, right? Who is she going to eventually take out? I don't know if it's Wilford. Now I don't know if it's Leighton. And I do kind of feel that tension authentically.
Ruth and Leighton.
There you go.
Yeah,
I mean,
for sure.
I mean, and that's the thing. We said it last week, but he's smarter than how he's playing with her. He the guy we saw last season would not roll his eyes and keep her out of meetings. At least I don't believe he would. I believe he'd have her at every damn meeting.
Like Don now, you know what I mean? He's ordering deaths. He's having his like shrimp cocktails.
To me as a friend, exactly.
And he's keeping tags on the drug trade.
Okay.
Yeah, right. Well, it does make me wonder about like his relationship with Zara, because if Zara is the second command to Ruth, like why isn't Zara being like, oh hey, by the way, you're pissing Ruth off, you're making a mistake here. Like why isn't Zara communicating if they're like in a relationship?
Because Zara's not that smart. I mean, I think she's just a floater character. I think she's just,
Well, what's in it for Zara?
True.
Well, the kind of things that 16-year-olds are after, right? A little bit of popularity, popular boyfriend. I mean, on the one hand, I'm being mean, but I don't see anything of depth in her character that, I mean, the play at the breakfast table, if that's what it was, hey, why don't you go kill this guy? It's just like, really? Dude, that's how you make that play? Okay. And Leighton, oh yeah, okay, that's what I'm gonna do. I just didn't buy it.
So what do we think of the good Reverend Logan? Or Pastor Logan? I think they've got him paired up with the wrong character right now. Yeah. You're right. That's not who he should. That's not how we should learn about who he is. Right. Because I think I think they're botching her character. Yeah. She's not going to fall apart just because she can't do a detective thing. I mean, she's not that weak. And suddenly throwing her into trauma last week by having her see all the faces. I mean, maybe, but there's other things they could have done with her. And then to use him to kind of the spiritual person on the train, I guess they could say that's his job and stuff, but there's got to be other ways to learn about him. That's how I felt. Like, is he planning to take the train over? I mean, is this his thing now? Now he's that's right, trying to come up against Leighton. Well, I mean, he better not be a Wilford plant. Oh my God! Is it him? Is he the Wilford plant? Moving up to the train detective, misdirecting her. You know what I'm saying? I mean, people have used religion in all the wrong ways for a long time.
I don't know. I feel like the other characters have not been developed enough for me to be interested in the creation of a new character.
It's like season 7 Walking Dead newbies. I mean, yeah. No one cared. Just get the old group back, man.
Develop what you got. I mean, they introduced the last great character when they introduced my man Tristan.
I fired him.
He's not fired. He is just behind the scenes. Okay.
Exactly. He's got an arc coming though. Just
he's gonna Arya this shit in the end.
That's right. He's gonna come out of nowhere.
Exactly.
It was Tristan all along.
All along. I'll tell you what, if that's true, he is slow playing this like a master, man.
Yeah, he's going with that long con.
No, I don't want to have anything to do with that microphone. I don't want to have anything to do with power. I mean, that would be fantastic. Yeah. Any other scenes or characters or lines that you guys want to talk about? I mean, again, I don't want it to seem like I'm bashing. It wasn't a bad episode. It just felt misplaced.
Yeah. I mean, I felt like all the parts were there. It just, I was looking for that.
Yeah.
And it's like they made the dinner and forgot the secret sauce.
Yeah, I don't know if they finished mixing the ingredients, man. I mean, you're right. The editing is, for me, is just because what the editing does is it constrains my flow of emotion. And a good editor knows, okay, rise, fall, laugh, tension, release. And I just wasn't getting a lot of that. And some of the stuff, honestly, when I went there, it's like, well, if I watch it again, I can fast forward this part. And I'm not trying to be mean, because I think they're rocking it with Ruth. I think they're rocking it with Melanie, to be honest, even though she's not there. And they're rocking it with Josie. So
yeah, I would say watching Josie is the part that I really appreciate about this one. Like, I kind of wish that had been handled like you guys are saying with editing, like when he's teaching her to ground herself, like y'all know, as like a crisis responder, like I was like, oh, yeah, that's my thing. Anyway,
and it was Big Bob.
Yeah, like he's got like a different size to him, like side to him, not size, and like teaching her how to handle that pain. And like I feel like I don't like that they're having to make her go through that, but they're setting her up to be someone who is genuinely a warrior and like is learning things about how to handle this reality that other people are not.
I think you just identified one of the key relationships in episode 7 and 8.
Yeah.
Because he respects her suffering, right? And he probably knows she put that note in the laundry and doesn't ask her for her. He just takes her drugs. He's going to come to her side, whatever side that eventually is, and they'll end up being the power couple for a couple episodes.
Maybe they'll kill Melanie together.
There you go.
She's still
like
a target on her back. I mean,
actually, Cianna, that makes sense. He works for Wilford, and Josie hates her.
Mm-hmm.
I think they kill Leighton.
Yeah.
They're gonna kill
Damn.
people. I mean,
Hey, I thought he was gonna get hit in some of those slow-mo walking through the hall scenes. This I thought for sure he was gonna get taken out.
No, because they're gonna have to set him up to like do something really interesting and worthwhile first, so that when he dies, like you're like, oh shit.
Oh, that was his master plan all along. Okay, I got it. Yeah.
I
Right.
do like Sienna's point about the makeup. One of the things I was gonna say there was the fact that like they're showing her slowly healing.
Yeah,
It's so subtle. Oh, they're doing such a good job. They're just doing a good job with her.
they are.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, I actually feel like this episode of Snowpiercer is probably better than most of the TV out there.
Yeah.
But it just isn't holding up to what we've seen so far, and I think that that's part of it. Like in all the other ones, they have this same type of density, the same type of grind, but they also have like some big arc in there, and I couldn't figure out what the big arc was.
So I agree with you completely, and I get the impression when the show starts trying to bring in ancillary characters, I never know, okay, does this mean this is a 3-season show and they're going to matter later? Or is this setting up characters because they don't know when it's going to end? Right. And
Right.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
no, just tell the story is my point. I'll take a 1-season fantastic show and watch it 3 times. You know, Deadwood, I watch it at least every 3 years, just because it's so satisfying and so well done. And everybody said, oh, Deadwood needed another season. No, one of the best season finales ever, as far as I was concerned. So just tell the damn story, as our friend Alex would say, and stop with the trying to figure out how long you can keep it alive. Because I think we can see it coming these days. You know, we can see when they're working to just keep it going instead of just telling the story.
I think the pacing was just so much better last season. So much better. I mean, I think you can tell, I think a 4-season max, if you're doing anything beyond 4 seasons.
Yeah, so what's the arc?
Post Game of Thrones, I'm a 4-season max person. You're not gonna catch me out there again.
I do not disagree at all.
You're not going to take 10 years of my life.
Never again.
Never again, Game of Thrones.
Never again.
Walking Dead. Oh my goodness. Yeah. I've given 4 seasons. That's it.
So what's the play this season? Is it so in other words, they're setting it up for, it's opposite of last season. Last season, Melanie was on the train and pretended Wilford wasn't. Well, pretended Wilford was. Now Wilford's on the train and other people are pretending Melanie's not there, but she is in a different way. So is it a Wilford versus Melanie season? I mean, do we think that's where it's going to come to?
Well, I know what I want it to be, but I don't think they're going to do it.
They don't have time to develop Tristan's character that well, man.
Well, Tristan doesn't need time to be developed. He's that good. Okay.
I got you. I'm with you.
You know, so yeah, let's put some respect on his name.
I think the prospect that there is going to be life after Snowpiercer, now it's like Smash Brothers. It's everybody versus everybody.
Well,
that's a good point.
Now we're just trying to live. Now we're just trying to make it through the next 3 years.
See, this is what I would like to see is, let Wilford and his minions get all set for war. Let Leighton and his minions get all set to war. Let the confrontation brew, and then when they go to say charge, all the people below them are like, huh? Nah. Because I think that's really where it's going, because it's like what I'm seeing is two trains with two different cultures. And the more they see one another, the more, at least below the people who are all ready to fight and plotting and planning, it's like, yeah, Leighton has started a drug trade because he wants to get information. But in the end, when you have, that's something that's going to knit the two things together. It's like, you're going to have a whole bunch of people who are like, gosh, do I want to like get in a fight and maybe die, or do I want to smoke some weed?
I mean, that's the thing, right? And that's something that we haven't talked about. Now that there is an end in sight, what's the play here? I am Ravenclaw. I am Hot Pie. I am Tristan. I'm just gonna do my job, fly for the radar, try and wait these next 3 years out and get my ass off that train. That's my play. But I think that's something that would be really, really interesting for us to think about and maybe have a discussion about. So now there is an end in sight.
Yeah.
What happens post Snowpiercer? What are you fighting for at this point? Are you fighting to make it off the train? Are you fighting to make it off the train with the most resources? I mean,
that's a really good point. And if they were to ended this season with the fight that doesn't happen, that is an excellent ending if they can make it work. And I've only seen one TV series I won't name that made it work to the point where I can watch the end of that series every time, and the fight that doesn't happen is just as intense as the fight that they were trying to tell you was going to happen. By the way, what's the name? Trixie was the blonde. And the reason I'm going to bring this up is because there's a scene in Deadwood where someone gets killed in town. And Trixie's been living with, I want to say Star, the guy who runs the store. But when the violence starts to happen, Trixie runs back to Swearingen. And it's completely believable. And I think it's the type of thing the tension they were trying to build with Audrey, right? But it just didn't work in the same way that it worked in Deadwood.
Audrey and Trixie, though, are two totally. Yeah.
So that about wraps it up for tonight's episode. Thanks so much for tuning in. Crew members, please tell the audience where they can find you on social media. And we'll start with Cianna.
You can find me on Twitter at CC Greaves. That's at CICIGREAVES.
Excellent. How about you, Stanford?
You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, and Clubhouse at SW Carpenter.
Fantastic. And how about you, Leandra?
You can find me on Twitter at Parris Leandra, at PARRIS Leandra.
Fantastic. I'm on Twitter at @dark_loops. You can find all episodes of the Snowpiercer at the Dark Loops Productions channel on YouTube. If you'd like to leave feedback about this podcast, please leave it below on this YouTube page or send a message to darkloopsproductions@gmail.com, and we'll be sure to read it at the end of our next podcast. So there it is. From all of us to all of you, big hugs, and remember, so then we lie. Bye-bye.
Bye.